Why would the holiest place on earth guard a map? Not of heaven, but of hell. Welcome to Mythical Lullabies. Tonight, close your eyes and drift into the hidden vaults beneath Vatican City, where whispers speak of a medieval atlas so disturbing that even popes feared to look upon it, who drew its twisted paths through the underworld. And what secret was so terrible that the Church locked it away for centuries? Let's find out, if you dare to listen in the dark. Picture yourself standing in St. Peter's Square, the moon casting long shadows across the cobblestones. The air feels heavy, like it's holding a secret. You glance at the towering basilica, its dome glowing faintly, but your mind wanders downward to the labyrinth of chambers buried beneath. Somewhere down there, locked in a vault no one's supposed to find, lies a map. Not just any map, one that charts the underworld, a medieval vision of hell, so vivid, so unsettling that it was deemed too dangerous to share. You're probably not going to survive this little mental field trip, by the way. Curiosity like yours tends to stir up trouble. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You start by imagining the Vatican's underbelly, a maze of stone corridors lit by flickering torches. The air down here smells of damp earth and old parchment, like a library that hasn't been opened in centuries. You're not supposed to be here, sneaking through passages only a handful of cardinals know exist, but the pull of that forbidden atlas is too strong. It's called the Carta Ignota, the unknown map, though no one's sure who named it. Some say it was drawn in the 12th century, during a time when the Church was obsessed with cataloguing both the divine and the damned. Others whisper it's older, maybe even tied to the early popes who built their holy city on Rome's pagan bones. The map's existence is a historical fact, sort of. Documents from the 1300s mention a diabolical chart sealed away by papal order, though the details are maddeningly vague. Historians still argue whether it was a literal map or a metaphor for something the Church wanted to forget. You pause at a rusted iron gate, its bars etched with Latin warnings. Cave Felis.
Anima, beware, curious soul.
Your fingers brush the cold metal, and you wonder what could be so terrifying about a piece of parchment. The Carta Ignota isn't just a drawing of hell, it's said to be a guide, a step-by-step path through the underworld's horrors. Medieval folks were obsessed with hell, priests preached about it, artists painted it, and poets like Dante made it a literary theme park. But this map, it went too far. It didn't just describe hell, it made it feel real, like you could follow its trails and end up there. A quirky tidbit: some monks believed the map was cursed, claiming anyone who studied it too long would hear whispers in their sleep. No wonder the Vatican wanted it locked up. Imagine the PR nightmare if that got out. You push past the gate, your footsteps echoing in the dark. The corridor slopes downward, and you feel a chill that's not just from the cold. The Vatican's always been good at keeping secrets. Think of all those locked archives, thousands of manuscripts no one's allowed to read. The Carta Ignota is one of them, supposedly stored in a lead-lined box to contain its influence. That's probably overkill, right? Like putting a child-proof cap on a bottle of soda. But the Church doesn't mess around when it comes to the supernatural. You can't help but smirk. Modern science might laugh at cursed maps, but back then, people took this stuff seriously. Even today, some Vatican insiders, those fringe types who lurk on conspiracy forums, claim the map's still down here, watched by guards who never speak of it. As you descend, you imagine what the map might look like. Parchment yellowed with age, edges frayed from centuries of hiding. Maybe it's covered in spidery ink, with rivers of fire snaking across it, or jagged mountains labeled with names of sins. You picture demons drawn in the margins, their eyes following you as you trace the paths. The medieval mind loved details. Monks would spend years illustrating manuscripts down to the tiniest claw on a dragon's foot. The Carta Ignota would be no different, every inch packed with meaning. But why hide it? Was it just too scary, or was there something else? Maybe it revealed a truth the Church couldn't handle, like a glitch in their holy worldview. You're not sure yet, but the thought makes your heart beat a little faster. You reach a dead end, a stone wall carved with a faint cross. There's a hidden door here, you can feel it. Your fingers trace the edges, searching for a catch. This is where the real journey begins, where you'll start to unravel the map's secrets. But for now, you're stuck, imagining the atlas just beyond your reach. It's not just a map. It's a story, a warning, maybe even a trap. And you're already too curious to turn back. So, what's next? A little hint. It involves monks.
Madness and a whole lot of ink. But don't worry, I'll guide you through it, one sleepy step at a time. Let's take a quick breather.
You're doing great, by the way, sneaking into the Vatican like a pro. Most people would have bailed at the first creepy Latin warning. Oh, and speaking of warnings, here's a fun fact. Medieval scribes sometimes wrote curses in their manuscripts to scare off thieves. Stuff like, "May your eyes rot if you steal this book." Charming, right? Okay, back to the story. You're still at that stone wall, but now you notice something. A faint outline of a keyhole, barely visible in the torchlight. It's not a normal lock. It's shaped like a skull, which is, let's say, not super inviting. You don't have a key, but you're not giving up. You press your ear to the wall, half expecting to hear those cursed whispers the monks talked about. Nothing yet, just the drip of water somewhere far off. The Vatican's vaults are like a fortress, built to protect treasures like the Carta.
Ignota from people exactly like you, but you're not here to steal, you're here to understand. Why would a map of hell be so dangerous? Was it just medieval superstition, or did it show something real, something the Church couldn't explain? Away?
You step back thinking about the Vatican's history. In the Middle Ages, the Church was the ultimate gatekeeper of knowledge. They controlled what people read, what they believed, even what they feared. A map like this could have been a threat. Maybe it challenged their authority, or maybe it was too honest about the afterlife. You chuckle, imagining a pope freaking out over a drawing like it's a bad Yelp review. But the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. The Carta Ignota wasn't just art, it was power. Whoever controlled it could shape how people saw hell, and that's a big deal when your whole institution runs on fear of eternal barbecue. You're getting closer to the truth, but the wall's still in your way. You sit down, back against the cold stone, and let your mind wander. The Carta Ignota feels alive, like it's waiting for you to find it. And maybe it is. Maybe that's why you're here, chasing a story that's been buried for centuries. For now, though, you rest, the hum of that imaginary fan lulling you into a calm state. The map's out there, and you're going to find it, no matter how many creepy vaults you have to sneak through. You're still in the Vatican's underbelly, the stone wall behind you unyielding, its skull-shaped keyhole mocking your progress. But you're not here to pick locks, not yet. Your mind drifts to the monks who created the Carta Ignota, those medieval mapmakers obsessed with charting the unchartable. Why would holy men, cloistered in candlelit cells, risk their souls to draw the underworld's terrors? You lean back, the damp air settling around you, and let the story unfold. Imagine a monastery perched on a windswept cliff, somewhere in 12th century Europe, maybe northern Italy, where the Alps loom like judgmental giants. You're inside, padding through a scriptorium where monks hunch over wooden desks, their quills scratching on parchment. The room smells of ink and wax, with a faint tang of fear. These aren't just any monks, they're the ones tasked with mapping hell. You can almost hear their whispers, half prayer, half panic, as they work. The Carta Ignota wasn't a casual project like doodling in the margins of a Bible. It was a mission driven by a mix of faith, dread, and something darker, maybe curiosity that bordered on madness. Historically, monasteries were hubs of knowledge. In the Middle Ages, monks preserved texts from Aristotle to Augustine, while the world outside crumbled under plagues and wars. But they didn't just copy holy books. Some, the weird ones, dove into the occult. Think alchemy or demonology, dressed up as theology. A quirky tidbit, one monk in a 13th century chronicle claimed he saw shadows dance on his parchment while drawing a demon's face, probably just candlelight and an all-nighter, but it spooked him enough to quit. These map makers weren't messing around. They believed their work could bridge the mortal and the infernal. Historians still argue whether the Carta Ignota was meant to warn people or guide them. Did it scare folks straight or tempt them to explore? You picture one monk, let's call him Brother Anselm, his hands trembling as he dips his quill. He's young, barely 20, with eyes that haven't slept in days. His abbot ordered him to contribute to the atlas, but Anselm's not sure why. Is it to glorify God by showing his justice? Or is it something else? Something the abbot won't explain? You watch him sketch a river of boiling pitch, its banks crowded with tiny, writhing figures. He mutters a prayer, but his heart's not in it. The map feels alive, like it's watching him back. You smirk. Sounds like Anselm needed a medieval coffee break, but you get it. Drawing hell isn't like illustrating a psalm. Every line feels like a step closer to the edge. Now zoom out. Why were monks so obsessed with hell in the first place? The Middle Ages were a rough time, famines, crusades, and a church that ruled by fear. Hell wasn't just a concept, it was a marketing tool. Priests used it to keep people in line, promising eternal torment for skipping mass or stealing a neighbor's goat. The Carta Ignota fit right in, but it went further. It wasn't a sermon or a painting, it was a blueprint, a map you could theoretically follow. You imagine holding it, feeling the parchment's weight, tracing paths labeled with sins, like avaritia, greed, or luxuria, lust. It's detailed, almost too detailed, like the monks wanted you to feel the heat of those flames. You shift against the Vatican wall, your imaginary fan humming in the background. The monk's obsession makes sense, but it's also off. Why? Not map heaven? Why focus on the dark stuff? Maybe it was practical. Hell was scarier, so it got more airtime. Or maybe it was personal. Picture Anselm again, sneaking into the scriptorium at midnight, not to work, but to stare at the map. He's not praying now. He's wondering if he's already damned for what he's drawn. You chuckle. Medieval burnout is relatable. Ever stayed up too late on a project, feeling like it's eating your soul? Same vibe, but there's another layer. The Carta Ignota wasn't just a monk's fever dream, it was a collaboration. Dozens of hands worked on it, maybe over decades. You imagine couriers smuggling sketches between monasteries, each adding a piece, Here, a pit of serpents, there a lake of ice. The church knew about it, at least at first. Early records mention a chart of the damned approved by a bishop, though he later denied it. Classic CYA move. The map grew, becoming more elaborate, more dangerous. Some monks claimed it was divinely inspired, a vision from God. Others, the fringe types, whispered it came from elsewhere. You raise an eyebrow. Demonic cartography? That's a plot twist even M. Night Shyamalan couldn't dream up. You stand, stretching your legs in the dim corridor. The monk's obsession feels closer now, like you're catching their fever. They didn't just draw the Carta Ignota to scare people. They did it to understand something. But what? The afterlife? Their own fears? You picture the scriptorium.
Again, but now it's empty. The monk's gone, their work hidden. The map's out there, waiting, and you're one step closer to finding it. But first, you need to know what it shows. Those paths, those rivers, those monsters, what do they mean?
You're about to find out, but don't get too cocky. Remember that shadow dancing monk? He didn't finish the job, and you might not either. Let's pause for a second. You're deep in this now, chasing a map that's probably cursed. Respect for not bailing at the skull keyhole thing. Oh, and here's a joke to lighten the mood. Why did the monk quit cartography? Too many dead ends in hell. Okay, back to it. The Carta Ignota is calling, and you're not the type to ignore a creepy invitation. Next up, you'll walk its paths. Hope you packed some imaginary sunscreen, because it's about to get hot. You're back in the Vatican's shadowy underbelly, the stone wall and its skull-shaped keyhole still blocking your path. But you're not stuck, not really. Your mind slips away, conjuring the Carta Ignota, the forbidden map you've been chasing. You can almost feel its brittle parchment under your fingers, smell the ancient ink. It's time to stop imagining the map's existence and start walking its paths. You close your eyes, and suddenly you're there, standing at the edge of a medieval inferno, the atlas unfolding before you like a fever dream.
Its eerie trails twist through a landscape no living soul should see. Ready? Let's wander hell together. The ground beneath your feet is ash, warm and crunching like fresh snow. The crimson sky pulses above, streaked with clouds that look like
they're bleeding. You glance down at the Carta Ignota in your hands, though how it got there, you're not sure. The parchment is heavy, its edges curling like they're trying to escape. Inked lines snake across it, forming rivers, mountains, and pits, each labelled in spidery Latin. You trace a path marked Via Peccatorum, the way of sinners, and your boots start moving, as if the map itself is pulling you forward. The air smells of sulphur and regret, and you're pretty sure this isn't the kind of trip you'd book on Expedia. Hope you're not allergic to eternal torment. The Carta Ignota isn't just a drawing, it's a guide to hell's geography, crafted with obsessive detail by those monk cartographers you met last time. Historically, medieval maps weren't always about physical places. Mappi Mundi, like the famous Hereford map from the 1300s, blended geography with theology, showing Jerusalem as the world's center and paradise at the edges. The Carta Ignota flips that script. It's a map of the underworld, not the earth, with no holy city to save you. Its paths don't lead to salvation. They spiral downward, deeper into despair. You notice the map's scale is off, like a funhouse mirror. A single step covers miles, and distances shift as you walk. It's disorienting, but you keep going, the map's ink glowing faintly, urging you on. You follow the Via Peccatorum, a jagged trail carved into a canyon of black stone. The walls tower above, etched with faces that seem to watch you. Sinners, maybe, or demons playing tricks. A river of fire runs parallel, its surface bubbling like molten glass. You squint at the map, and there it is. Flumen Ignis, the river, a fire labelled with a warning. Tangere mortem est, to touch is death. You're not dumb enough to test that, but you can feel the heat on your face like standing too close to a bonfire. You chuckle nervously. Good thing this is all in your head, right? Because if hell has a Yelp page, this place is getting 0 stars for hospitality. As you walk, you notice the map's details. Every inch is packed with tiny drawings, claws, eyes, chains, each one a warning of what's ahead. The monks didn't hold back. You spot a pit labelled Fossa Invidiae, the pit of envy, where figures claw at each other in a writhing heap. Another path leads to Mons Superbiae, the mountain of pride, its peak shrouded in smoke. The Carta Ignota feels alive, its lines shifting, slightly as you study them, like it's adapting to your choices. A quirky tidbit: some medieval scholars believed maps could be enchanted, imbued with power to guide or trap the reader. One 14th century text mentions a map that led a knight to his doom after he followed its paths too closely. You grip the Carta Ignota tighter, hoping it's not that kind of map. You pause at a fork in the trail. The map shows 2 options. One path dips into a valley called Vallis Lacrimarum, the Valley of Tears, where a cold wind carries faint sobs. The other climbs toward Porta Irae, the Gate of Wrath, guarded by a massive iron arch shaped like a screaming mouth. You're not thrilled about either, but the map seems to nudge you toward the valley. You smirk. Great. A stroll through Crybaby Central, but you trust the map, or maybe you're just too curious to stop. The path descends and the air grows damp, heavy with the scent of salt and sorrow. You hear water dripping, or maybe it's weeping. The Carta Ignota marks this place as a punishment for sloth, where souls who wasted their lives are forced to mourn forever. Harsh, but medieval justice wasn't exactly subtle. You keep moving, the valley narrowing until the walls press. Close. The map shows a bridge ahead, Pons Periculi, the Bridge of Peril, spanning a chasm filled with mist. You step onto it, the wooden planks creaking under your weight. Below, shapes move in the fog, long, sinuous things with too many eyes. You don't look down. The map's ink pulses and you notice a tiny note. Fuge velox. Flee quickly. Solid advice, but the bridge is swaying and you're not exactly Usain Bolt. You pick up the pace, heart pounding, and make it to the other side just as a plank snaps behind you. You collapse, catching your breath, and mutter, "Note to self, hell needs better infrastructure." The map doesn't respond, but you swear its lines twitch, like it's amused. Now you're in a new region, according to the Carta Ignota. Planetes, Avaritiae, the plain of greed. The ground sparkles with gold coins, but they're embedded in the earth, impossible to pry loose. You see figures crawling, their hands bleeding as they try to dig. The map labels them damnati, the damned, and you feel a pang of pity. Medieval theology was clear. Greed was a one-way ticket to this kind of torment. The church loved preaching about it, especially when they wanted donations. You glance at the map, and a new path appears, leading to a forest of thorns labelled Silva Luxuriae, the forest of lust. You're not sure you want to go there. Sounds like a bad date waiting to happen. But the map's glow insists, so you head that way, thorns snagging at your clothes. The forest is dark, the air thick with a sickly sweet scent. The Carta Ignota shows twisted trees with branches like grasping hands, and you hear whispers, not words, just sounds that make your skin crawl. You spot a clearing where shadows dance, their forms too vague to make out. The map marks this as a place of temptation, where souls are lured into traps they can't escape. You're tempted to linger, but the map's ink flares, urging you to move. You're starting to wonder if the Carta Ignota is guiding you or testing you. Historians still argue whether maps like this were meant to teach or terrify. Did the monks want you to learn from hell's horrors or just scare you into behaving? You're leaning toward the second option, but you're not sure. You exit the forest, relieved to see open ground again. The map now shows a massive lake, Lacus Gluttoniae, the Lake of Gluttony, its surface choked with writhing bodies. You skirt the edge, careful not to slip. The water, if you can call it that, is thick, like syrup, and smells of rotting fruit. You gag, wishing you had a medieval hazmat suit. The Carta Ignota marks a path around the lake, leading to a final destination, Castrum Diaboli, the fortress of the devil. Your stomach drops. That sounds like the kind of place you don't just walk into. But the map's glow is stronger now, almost blinding, and you feel a pull you can't resist. You're in deep and there's no turning back. Let's take a breather. You're doing great, by the way. Most people would have ditched the map at the first fire river. Here's a quick joke to lighten the mood. Why did the demon hate Hell's map? Too many hot spots. Okay, back to it. You're standing at the edge of the Gluttony Lake, the Carta Ignota practically burning in your hands. The fortress is close and you're not sure you're ready, but the map doesn't care. It's leading you somewhere and you're too stubborn, or maybe too foolish, to stop. You follow the path, the ground turning to cracked clay that crumbles underfoot. The Carta Ignota shows the fortress as a black smear, its walls spiked with iron. You can see it now, looming in the distance, its gates wide open like they're waiting for you. The map's details are overwhelming. Every sin, every punishment, drawn with a precision that feels personal. The monks who made this didn't just imagine hell, they lived it, at least in their minds. You wonder if they were afraid, or if they felt closer to God by mapping the devil's domain. Either way, their work is pulling you deeper, and you're starting to feel the weight of it. You pause, the fortress's shadow falling over you. The Carta Ignota is more than a map. It's a mirror, showing you pieces of yourself you'd rather not see. You laugh, trying to shake it off. What's next? A therapy session with Satan. You mutter. But the map's glow doesn't fade, and you know you're not done. The fortress is calling, and you're going to answer, one step at a time. You stand at the edge of the Castrum Diaboli, the fortress of the devil, its iron gates gaping like a wound in the Carta Ignota's twisted landscape. The map in your hands feels heavier now, its ink pulsing, as if it knows you're hesitating. You've wandered hell's paths, dodged rivers of fire, and skirted lakes of gluttony, but this fortress feels different, final, like a place you don't walk away from. The Vatican's forbidden atlas has led you here, but why? Why did the Church bury this map, locking it away in vaults beneath St. Peter's? You take a deep breath, the sulphurous air stinging your lungs, and step forward, ready to uncover why popes feared this parchment enough to erase it from history. The fortress's walls loom black and slick like they're carved from obsidian. You glance at the Carta Ignota, its lines squirming, marking the gate as Porta Eterna, the eternal door. No turning back now. You cross the threshold, and the air shifts, colder, heavier, like you're underwater. The map glows faintly, guiding, You through a courtyard littered with broken statues, angels maybe, their faces smashed. You smirk, thinking hell could use a better landscaper. But the humor fades fast. This place feels wrong, like it's watching you. The Carta Ignota shows a spiral path leading deeper, labeled Descensus Profundus, the deep descent. You start walking, boots echoing on stone, wondering what the church was so afraid of. Historically, the Vatican has a long track record of suppressing anything that threatens its grip on truth. In the 13th century, Pope Gregory IX launched the Inquisition to root out heresy, burning books and people with equal zeal. The Carta Ignota likely got caught in that net, not because it was false, but because it was too potent. A map of hell wasn't just a curiosity, it was a weapon capable of shaping how people saw the afterlife. If it challenged the church's narrative, or worse, suggested hell was more real, more knowable than heaven, it had to go. You picture a pope, maybe Innocent III, staring at the map's writhing lines, his hands shaking as he ordered it sealed away. No wonder they hid it. This thing could start a theological riot. You descend the spiral path, the walls narrowing until they brush your shoulders. The Carta Ignota shows chambers branching off, each labeled with cryptic phrases: Camera Doloris, Chamber of Sorrow; Atrium Mendaci, Hall of Lies. You pick one at random, stepping into a room where shadows flicker like candlelight. The air hums with whispers, not words, just sounds that make your skin crawl. The map marks this as a place of deception, where souls are tricked into reliving their worst lies. You see shapes in the dark, faceless figures mouthing silent apologies. A quirky tidbit: medieval monks sometimes used lying mirrors in monasteries, distorted glass to remind them of sin's deceit. Maybe this chamber inspired that, or maybe the map itself was the mirror, showing truths the church couldn't face. You back out, heart pounding, and check the Carta Ignota. It's urging you deeper toward a place called Sanctum Ignotum, the unknown sanctuary. Sounds like a trap, but you're too far gone to care. The path slopes sharply, and you half slide, half stumble into a vast cavern. The ceiling drips with stalactites, each tipped with a faint red glow, like embers. The map shows a throne at the center, but it's empty. No devil, no demons, just silence. You expected a big showdown, maybe a guy with horns and a pitchfork. Instead, you get nothing. You mutter, worst Airbnb ever. But the emptiness is worse than any monster. It's like the map wanted you to see this void, to feel its weight. Why hide a map that shows an empty throne? You sit on the cavern floor, the Carta Ignota spread before you, and think. Maybe the church feared the map's honesty. Medieval theology painted hell as a bustling torture factory, but this atlas suggests something bleaker, a place of absence, not just pain. That's scarier in a way. If hell isn't what the priests promised, what else did they get wrong? Historians still argue whether the Carta Ignota was suppressed for its content or its implications. Did it reveal too much about hell or too little about God? You're leaning toward the second. A map that questions divine order is more dangerous than one that just scares people. You trace the map's lines, noticing something new, faint text, hidden in the margins, barely legible. It's Latin, of course. Non est finis. There is no end. Great, so hell's a cosmic dead-end job. But it's not just a warning, it feels like a clue. The Carta Ignota wasn't meant to be seen, not by peasants or priests, maybe not even by popes. So who was it for? You imagine the monks who drew it, their quills trembling as they worked in secret. Were they heretics trying to expose the church's
lies or loyalists hiding a truth too big for the world?
The map doesn't say, but its silence is loud. You stand, folding the Carta Ignota carefully. The cavern's still empty, but you feel eyes on you, not from demons, but from the map itself. It's like it's testing you, seeing if you'll keep going. You will, obviously. You're too stubborn to quit, but you're starting to get why the Vatican locked this thing away. It's not just a map. It's a mirror reflecting questions no one wants to answer. You head back to the spiral path. The map's glow dimming slightly, like it's satisfied for now. The fortress looms around you, its walls whispering secrets you can't quite hear. Let's pause. You're killing it, by the way, strolling through. Hell like it's a Sunday hike. Most people would have bolted at the empty throne bit. Too creepy. Here's a quick joke. Why did the Pope hide the map? Bad directions to the gift shop. Okay, back to it. You're climbing out of the cavern now, the Carta Ignota, tucked under your arm. The Vatican's vaults are waiting, and you're not done digging. Next up, the map's symbols. What do they mean and why are they so weird? Hope you're ready for some medieval code breaking, because this is about to get wild. You reach the courtyard again, the broken statues staring blankly. The Carta Ignota feels warm, like it's alive, and you can't shake the feeling it's leading you somewhere specific. The church's cover-up is starting to make sense, but you're missing pieces. Why go to such lengths, vaults, edicts, curses, to hide a map? Was it the throne, the paths, or something else? You glance at the sky, still bleeding red, and wonder if the answer's in the map's margins, those cryptic words and symbols you haven't cracked yet. For now, you keep moving, the fortress's gates behind you, the Vatican's shadows calling you back. You're back in the Vatican's damp corridors, the Carta Ignota's weight still lingering in your mind, though the parchment itself has faded from your hands, left behind in that infernal fortress. The skull-shaped keyhole in the stone wall glints in the torchlight, but you're not trying to open it. Not yet. Your focus shifts to the map's cryptic symbols, those strange markings etched in its margins that seem to whisper secrets. You lean against the cold stone, the hum of your imaginary fan soothing your nerves, and let your thoughts drift to the atlas's inky riddles. What do those symbols mean? And why did the monks who drew them risk everything to hide their truth? Picture the Carta Ignota spread out before you, not in hell's glow, but in the dim flicker of a monastery's scriptorium. The parchment is massive, edges frayed, covered in paths and pits you've already walked. But it's the margins that pull you in now, tiny drawings, half letters, and shapes that don't belong in any alphabet. There's a spiral with an eye. At its center, a claw clutching a broken cross, a snake eating its own tail. They're not random, they're deliberate, like a code only the initiated could crack. You trace them in your mind, feeling like a medieval Dan Brown, minus the tweed jacket. Too bad there's no Holy Grail at the end of this. Or maybe there is. And it's just really bad at advertising. Medieval manuscripts were often packed with symbols, especially in religious texts. Monks used them to convey hidden meanings like shorthand for the divine or the damned. The Lindisfarne Gospels, a 7th century masterpiece, are filled with knots and beasts that hint at spiritual truths. The Carta Ignota takes it further, its symbols less holy, more unhinged. You imagine Brother Anselm again, the young monk from the scriptorium, his quill trembling as he draws that snake eating itself. It's an Ouroboros, a symbol of eternity, but here it feels wrong. like it's mocking the idea of salvation. Was Anselm trying to say something, or was he just scared? You smirk. Either way, he probably needed a medieval therapist. Let's try decoding one. The spiral with the eye. Call it the watcher's mark. You see it repeated across the map, always, near places of punishment, like the pit of envy or the lake of gluttony. In medieval art, eyes often meant God's judgment, but this one feels different, more predatory. A quirky tidbit: some 12th century monks believed demons could see through drawings, spying on the artist's soul. Superstitious, sure, but it makes you wonder if the watcher's mark was a warning or an invitation. You picture Anselm hesitating, his abbot looming over him saying, "Draw it, but don't look too long." Yeah, that's not creepy at all. You'd probably have spilled the ink and run. Next, the claw and broken cross. It's near the Porta Eterna, the fortress gate you crossed last time. The cross is obvious, Christianity's big logo, but broken? That's bold for a monk. It could mean betrayal, like Judas, or maybe something bigger, like a crack in the church's foundation. You imagine the map's creators whispering about it, knowing they were flirting with heresy. Historians still argue whether the Carta Ignota was orthodox or rebellious. Did it reinforce the church's teachings or subtly undermine them? You're leaning toward the latter. A map that breaks crosses isn't exactly singing Kumbaya. With the Vatican, the snake, the Ouroboros, is trickier. It's everywhere, looping around the map's edges like a frame. In alchemy, it meant renewal, but in hell, it's more like a trap, a cycle you can't escape. You see it near the Sanctum Ignotum, the empty throne room, and it hits you. Maybe the map's saying hell isn't just a place, it's a loop, a pattern. That's heavy stuff for a monk to scribble. You chuckle, imagining Anselm sneaking that symbol in, thinking, "Take that, Pope." But the humor fades. If the map's a code, it's not just about hell, it's about something the church didn't want anyone to understand. You shift against the Vatican wall, the stone biting into your back. Let's try another symbol, a half moon with a dagger. Through it, near the Vallis Lacrimarum, the Valley of Tears. Moons were big in medieval lore, tied to change or madness. A dagger through one? That's not a love letter. Maybe it's about sloth, the valley's sin, stabbing the idea of wasted potential. Or maybe it's personal, a monk's cry for help. You picture Anselm again, alone at midnight, carving that dagger with a shaky hand. Did he know the map would be hidden? Did he want someone like you to find it? You're getting carried away, but the symbols feel alive, like they're begging to be read. Okay, one more. A ladder with missing rungs drawn near the Castrum Diaboli. Ladders in Christian art meant ascension, climbing to God. A broken one in hell? That's a gut punch. No. Way out, no redemption. You see it paired with tiny words, non-ascenders do not climb.
Ouch. The monks weren't just mapping geography, they were mapping despair. You laugh, trying to lighten the mood. Great. A ladder that's basically a middle finger. But it's not funny, not really. The Carta Ignota's symbols aren't
Decorations, they're messages, and you're starting to crack them. Now zoom out. Why code the map at all? If the monks wanted to warn people, why not spell it out? Maybe they couldn't. The church was watching, and heresy meant a one-way
ticket to the stake.
Symbols were safer, a way to hide truth in plain sight. You imagine the Carta Ignota being passed between monasteries, each monk adding a mark, a clue. But someone slipped up. Someone showed it to the wrong bishop, and the Vatican swooped in. The map vanished, locked in that lead-lined box you're still trying to reach. You're close, but the symbols are a puzzle and you're missing pieces. You stand, stretching in the corridor's gloom. The Carta Ignota's code is starting to make sense, but it's raising more questions. Who were these monks, really? Were they loyal, or were they rebels, sneaking dissent into their art? The symbols, Watcher's Mark, Broken Cross, Ouroboros, Daggered Moon, Broken Ladder, feel like a story, but you're not sure how it ends. For now, you're stuck in this vault, the keyhole taunting you, but you're not giving up. The map's secrets are unraveling, and you're too curious to...
Stop, quick breather.
You're doing awesome, decoding hell's emojis like a pro. Most people would have bailed at the snake eating itself. Here's a joke. Why did the monk draw symbols? To confuse future podcasters. Back to it. You're in the Vatican's depths. The Carta Ignota's riddles buzzing in your head. Next, you'll meet the heretics who drew it. And trust me, they're not your average monks. Hope you're ready for some medieval drama because it's about to get spicy. You're still in the Vatican's subterranean maze, the skull-shaped keyhole in the stone wall, glinting like it's daring you to try it. The Carta Ignota's cryptic symbols, spirals, broken crosses, snakes eating their tails, swirl in your mind, but now you're wondering about the people behind them. Not just monks, but outcasts, heretics who risked death to draw hell's forbidden map. You slide down the wall, the damp stone cool against your back, and let the torchlight fade as you drift into their world. Who were these renegades, and why? Did they pour their souls into an atlas the church would burn them for? Picture a crumbling monastery in the 12th century, tucked in a fog-choked valley, maybe Tuscany, where the hills feel haunted. You're creeping through its cloisters, the air thick with mildew and fear. The monks here aren't chanting psalms. They're huddled in a hidden chamber, quills scratching under a single candle's glow. These are the map makers of the Carta.
Ignota, and they're not your average brothers. They're heretics, branded as such by a church that loves its rules more than its mercy. You spot one, a wiry man with ink-stained fingers and eyes that dart like he's expecting a raid.
Let's call him Brother Elias. He's the ringleader, and he's not drawing this map for fun. It's his rebellion, his obsession, maybe his damnation. Historically, the Middle Ages were a bad time to disagree with the Vatican. The Church was the ultimate gatekeeper, deciding who got to heaven and who got a one-way ticket to the stake. Heresy, any belief straying from doctrine, was a capital offense. In 1231, Pope Gregory IX formalized the Inquisition, a machine for sniffing out dissenters. The Carta Ignota likely came from this era when questioning the Church's version of hell could get you labeled a devil worshipper. Elias and his crew weren't just doodling, they were defying a system that could crush them. You imagine Elias whispering to his brothers, "This map will outlive us." Bold move, but you're not sure if he was brave or just nuts. You slip closer, peering over Elias's shoulder. He's sketching a pit labeled Fossa Rebellionis, the pit of defiance, filled with figures who look suspiciously like bishops. Subtle.
Elias, real subtle. You smirk. Guy's got guts, but he's playing with fire and not the metaphorical kind. The Carta Ignota isn't just a map. It's a middle finger to the Vatican, drawn by men who'd seen the Church's darker side. Maybe
they were excommunicated, kicked out for asking too many questions. Maybe they'd watched friends burn for less. Either way, they're not here to glorify God. They're here to expose something, even if it kills them. Let's meet another, Sister Margarita, a rarity in a male-dominated monastery. She's not supposed to be here, but Elias trusts her. Her hands are steady as she draws a serpent coiling around a throne, her lips moving in silent prayer, or maybe a curse. A quirky tidbit. Women in medieval scriptoria weren't unheard of, but they were often nuns working on safe texts, like prayer books. Margarita's an outlier sneaking into this heretical project. You picture her hiding her work under her habit, dodging the abbot's spies. She's not just risking death, she's risking erasure, her name wiped from history. Yet here she is, carving hell's truths into parchment. You're kind of in awe, but also glad you're not in her shoes. Medieval HR was brutal. Why did they do it? You sit back, imagining their motives. Elias might have been a scholar, fed up with the church's lies about the afterlife. Margarita could have been driven by faith, believing the map would save souls by showing the real hell. Then there's Brother Cato, the quiet one in the corner, drawing claws and eyes with eerie precision. He's the wild card. Rumors say he saw visions, maybe even talked to things that weren't there. Historians still argue whether the Carta Ignota's creators were rebels or mystics. Were they fighting the church or chasing divine truth? You're torn. The map feels like both a weapon and a prayer, a scream and a whisper. You watch them work, the candle burning low. The Carta Ignota grows, its paths and symbols taking shape. Elias adds, the Ouroboros, that snake eating itself, may be a nod to their endless fight. Margarita sketches the broken ladder, a jab at the church's false promises. Cato's claws multiply, each one sharper than the last. They're not just mapping hell, they're mapping their own fears, their own sins. You wonder if they knew the map would be hidden, locked away in the Vatican's vaults. Did they hope someone like you would find it? You chuckle. Great, now you're the chosen one in a medieval conspiracy. Hope there's a cool cape involved, but it's not all bravado. You see fear in their eyes, especially when footsteps echo outside. The Inquisition's always watching, and these heretics know their time's short. You imagine a raid, torches, shouts, soldiers dragging Elias to a pyre. Margarita might have escaped, blending into a convent, but Cato? He's the type to go down swinging, clutching the map like it's his soul. The Carta Ignota survived though, smuggled out before the flames. How it got to the Vatican you're not sure, but you're betting it wasn't a friendly handoff. Maybe a traitor monk, maybe a bribe. Either way, the map's here, and you're closer to it than ever. You stand, the Vatican corridor feeling smaller now, like it's closing in. The heretic story makes the Carta Ignota heavier, more real. They weren't just artists. They were outcasts, betting their lives on a truth no one wanted. You picture Elias's final moments, staring into the fire, whispering, "Find it." Okay, maybe that's dramatic, but you're feeling the weight of his legacy. The maps. Not just a puzzle, it's their blood, their defiance, locked in that vault. You glance at the keyhole, tempted to try something reckless, but you're not there yet. First, you need to know where this map came from, what cursed ground it sprang from. Quick pause. You're killing it, hanging with heretics like it's no big deal. Most people would have noped out at the first Inquisition mention. Here's a joke. Why did the heretic draw maps? To give the devil better GPS. Back to it. You're in the Vatican's depths. The Carta Ignota's makers haunting your thoughts. Next, you'll trace the map's origins, and trust me, it's not a happy birthplace. Hope you're ready for some cursed monastery vibes, because this is about to get dark. You're still deep in the Vatican's underbelly, the torchlit corridor pressing in like a secret it wants to keep. The skull-shaped keyhole in the stone wall taunts you, but you're not ready to tackle it yet. Your mind is tangled with thoughts of Elias, Margarita, and Cato, those heretical mapmakers who poured their defiance into the Carta Ignota. Now you need to know where their work began, the cursed ground that birthed this forbidden atlas. You slump against the damp wall, the soft hum of your imaginary fan easing you into a trance, and let yourself slip back to a monastery so dark its name was erased from history. This is where the Carta Ignota was born, and it's not a place you'd want to visit. Imagine a jagged cliff in the Apennines, 12th century Italy, where the wind howls like it's mourning. Perched there is a monastery, its walls blackened by
time or something worse. You're standing at its gates, the iron rusted, the air thick with rot and ash.
This place, let's call it Monasterium Tenebris, the monastery of shadows, feels wrong, like the earth itself wants to spit it out. The Carta Ignota was created here, in secret chambers where monks worked by flickering light, their prayers, drowned by whispers they couldn't ignore. You push through the gates, heart thudding, and step into a courtyard choked with weeds. This isn't holy ground, it's cursed, and you're about to find out why. Historically, monasteries were often built in remote places to isolate monks from temptation. But Monasterium Tenebris was different, too far, too hidden, even for the Middle Ages. Records from the 1200s mention a forsaken cloister in the mountains, abandoned after a scandal no one dared detail. The Carta Ignota likely started here, drawn by monks who weren't just isolated but shunned, sent to this god-forsaken place as punishment or exile. You picture the abbot, a gaunt man with eyes like voids, ordering his brothers to map hell, not for salvation, but for something he wouldn't name. You smirk, thinking he'd fit right in at a modern corporate retreat, barking vague mission statements. But the humor fades fast. This place is no joke. You creep into the monastery's scriptorium, a cavernous room with slanted tables and ink pots long dried. The air smells of mold and something sharper. Blood, maybe, or fear. You see scratches on the walls, not words, just frantic lines like someone tried to claw their way out. This is where Elias and his crew worked, but they weren't alone. The Carta Ignota's origins are murky, tied to rumors of a relic, a shard of stone maybe, or a book, kept in the monastery's crypt, a quirky tidbit. One 13th century chronicler claimed the monks found a tablet of the damned that spoke in tongues when touched. Probably just a fever dream, but it spooked the Vatican enough to send inspectors who never came back. You're not sure you'd have signed up for that field trip either. Let's walk deeper. You descend a spiral stair to the crypt, the steps slick with moss. The Carta Ignota wasn't born in a day. It took years, maybe decades, and this crypt was its heart. You imagine Elias here, hunched over a slab, sketching the Fossa Rebellionis while the abbot watched. The relic, whatever it was, sat nearby, wrapped in cloth, its presence making the air hum. Margarita might have been the only one brave enough to touch it, her fingers tracing its edges as she drew that daggered moon. Cato, though, he's the one who scares you. You picture him staring at the relic, muttering, his claws and eyes filling the map's margins. Was it inspiration or possession? Historians still argue whether the Carta Ignota was a product of faith or madness. Did the monks see divine visions, or were they driven insane by this place? You reach the crypt, a low chamber with a dirt floor and a single altar. The relic's gone, of course, but you feel its echo like a weight in your chest. The Carta Ignota's first lines were drawn here, maybe on scraps before they became the full map. You see faint carvings on the altar, spirals, snakes, the Watcher's Mark. They're older than the monastery, older than the church, like they were waiting for the monks to find them. You shiver, wishing you'd brought a medieval flashlight. This place isn't just cursed, it's alive, feeding the map's creation. You imagine the monks' fear, their quills trembling as they worked, knowing they were crossing a line no one could uncross. Why here? Why this monastery? You sit on the crypt's floor, the cold seeping through you. Maybe Monasterium Tenebris was chosen for its isolation, a place where the church could hide its dirty work. Or maybe it was the relic, drawing outcasts like moths to a flame. You picture the abbot's orders. Map the underworld or burn. Elias and his crew had no choice, but they made it their own, pouring their anger, their doubts into every line. The Carta Ignota became their confession, their curse, their legacy. You laugh softly. Talk about a toxic workplace. But it's not funny, not really. These monks paid for their art with their lives, and the map's still out there, locked in the Vatican's vault. You stand, the crypt's shadows clinging to you. The Carta Ignota's origins are clearer now, but they're darker than you expected. This wasn't just a project, it was a pact, sealed in a place that shouldn't exist. You climb back to the scriptorium, then the courtyard, the monastery's walls fading as you return to the Vatican corridor. The keyhole's still there, unyielding, but you're starting to understand what's behind it. The map's not just a drawing, it's a piece of Monasterium Tenebris, carrying its curse through the centuries. You're close, but you need to know how the Vatican got involved, why they turned on the map they once allowed. Quick breather, you're crushing it, poking around cursed monasteries like it's no big deal. Most people would have bolted at the first creepy altar. Here's a joke. Why'd the monk stay in the crypt? He liked the dead-end job. Back to it. You're in the Vatican's depths, the Carta Ignota's birthplace haunting you. Next, you'll uncover the Pope's role. Why they banned this
map with such fury. Hope you're ready for some papal drama because it's about to get intense.
You're back in the Vatican's torch-lit corridors, the skull-shaped keyhole in the stone wall still mocking your progress. The air feels heavier now, thick with the weight of Monasterium Tenebris and its cursed relic, where the Carta Ignotat was born. You slump against the damp stone, the faint hum of your imaginary fan calming your nerves, and let your mind drift to the popes who turned against this map. Why did the holiest men on earth issue decrees to ban a parchment they once
permitted?
You're about to uncover the fear and fury that drove the Vatican to bury the Carta Ignota forever. Picture Rome in the 13th century, a city of grand basilicas and filthy alleys where the Pope's word is law. You're in the Lateran Palace, the Vatican's old headquarters, creeping through marble halls lit by flickering braziers. Pope Innocent IV sits on his throne, his face grim as he clutches a scroll, a decree condemning the Carta Ignota. You can almost hear the scratch of his quill as he signs it, the words Damnatio Chartae scrawled in red ink. The map is damned. This isn't a casual ban, it's a holy panic, and you're here to find out why. You smirk, thinking Innocent's probably not winning any Chill Pope of the Year awards. But the humour fades. Something about this map scared him witless. Historically, the Catholic Church was a master at controlling narratives. In 1215, the Fourth Lateran Council under Innocent III set strict rules on doctrine, branding any deviation as heresy. The Carta Ignota likely surfaced during this crackdown, its existence first noted in a 1247 papal bull that vaguely mentions a diabolical chart spreading false visions of the damned. Innocent IV, who ruled from 1243 to 1254, took it further, issuing edicts to seize and destroy the map. You imagine him reading reports from Monasterium Tenebris, his advisors whispering about monks gone mad, drawing hell with too much detail. The map wasn't just a drawing, it was a threat, challenging the Church's monopoly on the afterlife. You slip closer, hiding behind a tapestry, as Innocent meets his cardinals. They're arguing, voices low but sharp. One, a nervous bishop, holds a fragment of the Carta Ignota just a corner, torn and singed, showing the watcher's mark, that spiral eye you decoded earlier. "It's cursed," the bishop hisses, claiming monks who touched it heard voices. Innocent's not buying the curse talk, but he's worried about something else, the map's power. It's too vivid, too real, making hell feel closer than heaven. If peasants got hold of it, they might question the Church's promises, or worse, lose faith entirely. You chuckle, imagining a medieval PR team scrambling to spin this. Hell's not that bad, folks. Yeah, good luck with that. Let's dig deeper. You follow Innocent to his private chambers, where he unrolls the fragment again. The watcher's mark stares back, and you see him flinch. A quirky tidbit. 13th century popes were obsessed with optics. Innocent V once banned red hats for cardinals because they looked too worldly. A map of hell, especially one with rebellious symbols like broken crosses, was a branding nightmare. But it's more than that. The Carta Ignota suggested truths the Church couldn't control, like that empty throne in the Sanctum Ignotum. If hell wasn't the torture fest priests preached, what was it? Historians still argue whether Innocent banned the map for its heresy or its honesty. Did it lie about hell or reveal too much? You slip out, trailing the bishop as he carries the decree to a scriptorium. Monks are copying it, their quills racing to spread the order. Seek the Carta Ignota, burn it. Speak not
of it.
But you notice something. One monk, young and sly, hides a copy of the map's fragment under his desk. He's risking everything, just like Elias and Margarita. You wonder if he's a heretic or just curious, but either way, he's why the map survived. The Vatican's edicts were brutal, but they weren't perfect. Some fragments, maybe even the whole Carta Ignota, slipped through, smuggled to secret vaults. You're standing in one now, aren't you? That keyhole's starting to look like a challenge, back to Innocent. You imagine him pacing, haunted by the map's implications. He's not just fighting a parchment. He's fighting doubt. The Carta Ignota made hell tangible, but it also made it questionable. What if the monks were right and the Church's version was wrong? You see him burn the fragment, flames curling around the watcher's mark, but it's too late. The map's out there, its ideas spreading like a virus. You laugh softly, poor Innocent, trying to cancel a map in the days before social media. But the stakes were higher then. One wrong move, and the Church's authority could crumble. You're back in the corridor now, the keyhole glinting. The Pope's fear makes sense. Control is everything, and the Carta Ignota was a wild card. Innocent II's decrees didn't just ban the map, they erased it from memory, or tried to. You feel a pang for those monks, their work condemned by men who never understood it. But you're closer to the truth, and the map's waiting, locked, behind that wall. You're tempted to pry at the keyhole, but you know better. First, You need to face what's on the map, not just its paths, but its monsters. Quick pause. You're nailing this, sneaking through papal plots like a pro. Most people would have bailed at the first damned map memo. Here's a joke. Why'd the Pope ban the map? It kept giving him nightmares. Back to it. You're in the Vatican's depths, innocence decrees echoing in your head. Next, you'll confront the Carta Ignota's creatures. Hope you're ready for some medieval
Monster madness, because it's about to get wild.
You're still in the Vatican's shadowy corridors, the skull-shaped keyhole in the stone wall glinting like it knows you're stalling. The weight of Pope Innocent IV's decrees lingers, his fear of the Carta Ignota sharp in your mind. You
Lean against the damp stone, the soft hum of your imaginary fan grounding you, and let your thoughts drift back to the map itself.
You've walked its paths, decoded its symbols, and traced its cursed origins, but now it's time to face what lurks within it, the grotesque creatures populating its inked hell. You close your eyes, and the Carta Ignota reappears in your hands, its parchment warm, urging you to confront the monsters drawn by those heretical monks. You're back in the map's infernal landscape, standing on a cracked plain under a sky like bruised flesh. The Carta Ignota glows faintly, its margins crawling with drawings, claws, fangs, eyes that seem to follow you. These aren't just decorations, they're the Underworld's inhabitants, each one a nightmare etched with chilling precision. You trace a path labelled Campum Bestiarum, the field of beasts, and your boots crunch on ash as you move. The air smells of rot and iron, and you mutter, hope these guys don't bite. Spoiler. They probably do, but you're too curious to turn back. Medieval art loved its monsters. Manuscripts like the 13th century Luttrell Psalter are packed with hybrid beasts, goat-headed men, winged serpents meant to scare or teach. The Carta Ignota takes it to another level, its creatures less symbolic, more visceral, like the monks saw them in dreams or worse. You spot one on the map, a hulking thing with too many arms labelled Custor Vorax, the devouring guardian. It's near a pit marked Fossa Avaritiae, the pit of greed. You reach the pit's edge, and there it is, 10 feet tall, its arms writhing like snakes, each tipped with a mouth.
Its eyes, dozens of them, blink in unison. You smirk, thinking it'd make a terrible pet, but your heart's pounding. This thing feels real, like it could step off the parchment. You back away, checking the Carta Ignota for the next beast.
Quirky tidbit. Medieval monks sometimes drew monsters to mock their own fears, like a 12th century scribe who sketched a demon with a comically large nose. But the Carta Ignota's creatures aren't funny. Take the Serpens Umbra, the shadow serpent, coiled around the silver luxuriae, the forest of lust. You head there, thorns snagging your clothes, and see it. A snake as long as a river, its scales glinting like oil, its face human but wrong, eyes too wide, mouth stitched shut. The map notes it, sings lies to trap souls. You hear a faint hum, like a lullaby gone sour, and step back fast. Nope, not falling for that one. Next, the Lupus Necator, the Slayer Wolf, prowling the Planetes Irae, the Plain of Wrath. You trudge across a field of shattered swords, the map guiding you to a ridge. There's the wolf, bigger than a horse, its fur matted with blood, its jaws lined with teeth like daggers. The Carta Ignota says it hunts those who rage without cause, tearing them apart endlessly. You watch it pace, its growl shaking the ground, and mutter, Okay, buddy, you need anger management. But it's not just a beast. It's a warning drawn by monks who knew rage, maybe their own, maybe the church's, could destroy everything. Why so many monsters? You sit on a boulder, the map spread before you. The monks, Elias and his crew, didn't just draw these to scare people. Each creature guards a sin, a piece of human failure. The Custer Vorax for greed, the Serpens Umbra for lust, the Lupus Necator for wrath. They're mirrors, showing what happens when you let sin win. But there's something else. Historians still argue whether the Carta Ignota's monsters were allegories or visions. Did the monks invent them or believe they were real? You're leaning toward the second. Monasterium Tenebris, with its cursed relic, might have driven them to see things, to draw what they feared was waiting. You flip the map, spotting one last creature, the spectre, Silens, the silent wraith, haunting. The Vallis Lacrimarum, the Valley of Tears. You head there, the air growing cold, the ground slick with salt. The wraith is a blur, humanoid but faceless, its body dissolving into mist. The Carta Ignota calls it the Keeper of Sloth, stealing breath from those who wasted life. You feel it watching, though it has no eyes, and your chest tightens. You laugh nervously. Great! A ghost with a grudge. But it's not funny. The wraith's silence is worse than any growl, like it's judging you, knowing your own moments of laziness. You retreat. The map's glow dimming. These creatures
aren't just monsters. They're the Carta Ignota's soul, drawn by outcasts who poured their dread into every claw and fang.
You wonder about Cato, the monk who loved his claws if he saw these beasts in his sleep. The church feared the map's monsters, not just for their horror, but for their truth. They made hell personal, inescapable. You fold the map in your mind. Back in the Vatican corridor, the keyhole still unyielding. The creatures are behind you, but their weight lingers, like they're waiting for you to slip. Quick breather. You're killing it, facing Hell's Zoo like a champ. Most people would have run at the first multi-armed freak. Here's a joke. Why'd the demon join the map? It wanted to be a scary influencer. Back to it. You're in the Vatican's depths. The Carta Ignota's monsters clawing at your thoughts. Next, you'll dig into the map's hidden purpose, because it's not just a warning. Hope you're ready for some big reveals, because this is about to get deep. You're back in the Vatican's torchlit corridors, the skull-shaped keyhole in the stone wall still unyielding, a silent challenge. The Carta Ignota's monsters, those writhing, snarling beasts, linger in your mind, their claws and eyes, etched into your thoughts. You slump against the damp stone, the soft hum of your imaginary fan easing you, and let the map's weight pull you deeper. You've walked its paths, decoded its symbols, and faced its creatures, but now a question gnaws at you. What was the Carta Ignota really for? It's more than a warning, more than a heretic's rebellion. You close your eyes, the map flickering, in your imagination, and dive into its hidden purpose, the secret that made it too dangerous to exist. Picture yourself back in Hell's landscape, standing on a scorched hill overlooking the Planetes Avaritiae, the plain of greed, where coins glint uselessly in the dirt. The Carta Ignota is in your hands, its parchment warm, almost pulsing. You've seen its rivers of fire, its wraiths and wolves, but now you notice something new. Faint lines connecting the sins like a web. The Fossa Invidiae links to the Silva Luxuriae, the Lacus Glutoniae to the Porta Irae. It's not random, it's a system, a map, not just of hell, but of something bigger. You smirk, thinking this feels like a medieval escape room, except the prize is probably eternal doom. But you're hooked, and you're not stopping now. Historically, medieval maps often served dual purposes. The Ebstorf Mappa Mundi, a 13th century giant, wasn't just geography, it was theology, showing the world as Christ's body. The Carta Ignota plays a similar game, but darker. It's not mapping earth or heaven, it's charting human failure, linking sins to punishments with eerie precision. You trace the web, realizing it's not just about scaring people, it's about understanding them. The monks, Elias and his outcast crew, didn't draw this to preach, they drew it to dissect, to show how one sin feeds another. Greed breeds.
Envy, lust, fuels wrath. Sloth chokes hope. You wonder if they were trying to warn the church or expose it.
Either way, the Vatican wasn't thrilled. Let's zoom in. You sit on the hill, the Carta Ignota spread before you. The web's center is the Sanctum Ignotum, that empty throne room you found in the fortress. It's unmarked by sin, a void where the map's lines converge. You recall the Ouroboros, that snake eating itself, looping around the map's edges. A quirky tidbit. Medieval mystics used the Ouroboros to mean unity, but in alchemy it hinted at transformation, breaking a cycle to become something new. What if the Carta Ignota's purpose was to break hell's cycle? You imagine Elias whispering to Margarita, "This map isn't for fear, it's for freedom." A stretch, maybe, but it feels right. The map's not just showing you hell, it's showing you a way through it. You stand, following a path toward the Vallis Lacrimarum, the Valley of Tears. The map's web suggests sloth, the valley's sin, is a gateway. Give in to it, and you're stuck. But resist, and you move closer to the Sanctum Ignotum. You trudge through the valley, the air heavy with sobs, the spectre silence watching from the mist. Your legs feel leaden, like the map's testing you, but you keep going, the web guiding you. It's like the monks encoded a lesson. Every sin is a choice, and every choice is a path. You laugh softly. Great medieval self-help from heretics. But it's not funny. The Carta Ignota's purpose feels personal, like it's asking you to face your own flaws. Why hide this? You pause, the map glowing brighter. The church loved preaching about sin, but always with a catch. Only they could absolve you. The Carta Ignota cuts them out, suggesting you could navigate hell, maybe even escape it, without a priest. That's not just heresy, it's revolution. You picture Pope Innocent IV clutching the map's fragment, realizing it could unravel his authority. No wonder he banned it. A map that empowers the sinner over the church. That's a theological nuke. Historians still argue whether the Carta Ignota was meant to liberate or condemn. Did the monks want to save souls or trap them in despair? You're leaning toward liberation, but it's a risky bet. You move toward the Sanctum Ignotum, the map's web tightening. The empty throne looms, its silence louder than any monster's roar. You notice words in the margins, faint but clear. Noscite ipsum, know thyself. Ouch. The monks weren't just mapping hell, they were mapping you, your choices, your potential to rise or fall. The Carta Ignota's purpose wasn't to scare, it was to teach, to make you see the web of your own life. You fold the map, back in the Vatican corridor, the keyhole glinting. The church buried this because it gave too much power to the individual, and you're starting to feel that power yourself. Quick pause. You're crushing it, unraveling hell's self-help manual like a pro. Most people would have ditched the map at the first existential crisis. Here's a joke. Why'd the monk make a map? to give sinners a sin-ister GPS back to it. You're in the Vatican's depths, the Carta Ignota's purpose burning in your mind. Next, you'll sneak into the vaults where it's hidden. Hope you're ready for some high-stakes sneaking, because it's about to get tense. You're deep in the Vatican's subterranean maze, the skull-shaped keyhole in the stone wall, no longer just a taunt, it's a dare. The Carta Ignota's hidden purpose, that web of sins and choices, pulses in your thoughts, urging you closer to the truth. You've walked hell's paths, faced its monsters, and unraveled its heretical intent, but now it's time to find the map itself, locked in the Vatican's guarded archives. You press your fingers to the cold stone, the faint hum of your imaginary fan steadying you, and imagine slipping into the forbidden vaults where the Carta Ignota lies. This is no daydream, it's a heist, and you're sneaking where even angels fear to tread. Picture a narrow passage beyond the keyhole, though how you got through it, you're not sure. Call it narrative magic. You're crouching in a tunnel, the air thick with dust and secrets. The walls are carved with faded crosses, some upside down, like whoever built this place wasn't fully on Team Heaven. Your torch flickers, casting shadows that twist into claws, reminding you of the Custer, Vorax from the map. You smirk, muttering, "No monsters here, just bad interior decorating." But your pulse quickens. The Vatican's archives are a fortress within a fortress, and the Carta Ignota is their darkest prize. You're not just sneaking into a library, you're breaking into the church's nightmares. Historically, the Vatican's secret archives, now called the Apostolic Archives, are real and famously impenetrable. Founded in the 17th century but built on older vaults, they house millions of documents, from papal bulls to trial records of heretics like Galileo. In the 13th century, when the Carta Ignota was likely hidden, these vaults were less organized, but no less secure, guarded by monks and soldiers loyal to the Pope. You imagine Pope Innocent IV's men sealing the map in a lead-lined box, as rumors claimed, to contain its curse. The archive's secrecy wasn't just about protection, it was about control, keeping truths like the Carta Ignota from prying eyes. You're those prying eyes now, and you're not backing down. You crawl forward, the tunnel opening into a vast chamber. Stone shelves tower around you, crammed with scrolls, codices, and boxes, their labels in Latin, edictum, confessio, maledictum. The air smells of old leather and wax, like a library left to rot. You spot a spiral staircase leading to a higher level, where a heavy iron door glints, your target, the inner vault. The Carta Ignota's in there, you're sure of it. But you're not alone. You hear footsteps, soft but deliberate, and duck behind a shelf. A guard, maybe a monk, passes, his lantern swinging, his robe brushes the floor, and you notice a key dangling from his belt, shaped like a skull. Bingo, you're no thief, but you're tempted. Instead, you wait, heart pounding until he's gone. Close call. Getting caught here would be, let's say, bad for your sleep schedule. You climb the staircase, the iron door looming. It's etched with warnings. Prohibetur intrare. Entry forbidden. Subtle. You test the handle, but it's locked, no surprise. The Carta Ignota's too dangerous for an open-door policy. You imagine what's inside. The map, yellowed and fragile, sealed in that lead box, its ink still vivid. Rivers of fire, monsters, the web of sins you traced. A quirky tidbit. Medieval archives sometimes used curse seals on forbidden texts, claiming they'd blind or sicken intruders. You picture the Carta Ignota's box with one, maybe the Watcher's mark, carved into it. Silly superstition, right? But your hand hesitates like the maps, daring you to try. Let's backtrack. How did the map end up here? You crouch by the door, thinking, after Innocent Sophie's decrees, the Carta Ignota was hunted, but someone, maybe that sly monk you saw copying fragments, smuggled it to Rome. It wasn't destroyed, it was preserved, hidden by the very church that feared it. Why? Maybe they couldn't bear to burn it, its detail too mesmerizing. Or maybe they wanted to control it, to study its secrets in private. You imagine cardinals sneaking down here over centuries, staring at the map, wondering if it was truth or heresy. Historians still argue whether the Vatican kept the Carta Ignota to suppress it or to harness it. Did they fear its power or crave it? You're leaning toward fear, but the Church's history of hoarding knowledge makes you wonder. You stand searching for a way in. The door's lock is complex, with gears and slots like a medieval puzzle box. You're no locksmith, but you notice scratches around the keyhole as if someone else tried and failed. You picture Brother Elias's ghost cheering you on, or maybe
warning you to run. You laugh quietly. Great, now I'm taking advice from dead heretics.
But you're too deep to quit. You trace the door's carvings, finding a hidden panel. It clicks, revealing a slot for that skull-shaped key. You don't have it, but you're close, closer than anyone's been in centuries. The Carta Ignotas, just beyond waiting to be seen. You step back, the vault's silence pressing in. The map's purpose, its call to know yourself, feels stronger here, like it's why you're risking this. The Vatican's guards, the locked door, the curses there.
All trying to keep you from that truth.
But you're stubborn, and the map's on your side. You imagine holding it, feeling its weight, seeing the web of sins glow under your touch. For now, though, you're stuck. The iron door unyielding. You'll find a way, but first, you need to understand why this map still matters, why its secrets haunt scholars even today. Quick pause. You're killing it, sneaking into Vatican vaults like a medieval ninja. Most people would have bailed at the first cursed lock. Here's a joke. Why'd the map hide in the vault? It wanted to be an undercover legend. Back to it. You're in the archives, the Carta Ignota, so close you can almost taste it. Next, you'll dive into the scholars' debates over its
meaning. Hope you're ready for some academic drama, because it's about to get heated.
You're still crouched in the Vatican's shadowy archives, the iron door to the inner vault looming before you, its skull-shaped keyhole a silent taunt. The Carta Ignota is so close its heretical truths, those paths, monsters, and webs of sin, burning in your mind. You lean against a dusty shelf, the faint hum of your imaginary fan calming your nerves, and let your thoughts drift from the map's physical presence to the arguments it sparks. Scholars have clashed for centuries. Over its true intent, their debates a maze as twisted as the map itself. You're about to wade into their fray, pondering what the Carta Ignota really means and why it still haunts the learned and the curious. Picture a dimly lit study in 19th century Oxford, where professors in tweed hunch over manuscripts, their pipe smoke curling like ghosts. You're there, eavesdropping as they argue about the Carta Ignota, known to them only through whispers and fragments. One scholar, a wiry man with ink-stained cuffs, insists it's a heretical manifesto meant to mock the church. Another, a woman with a sharp glare, argues it's a mystical guide encoded with spiritual truths. Their voices rise, papers scatter, and you smirk. Academia's basically a cage match with better vocabulary. But their debate matters because it shapes how you see the map, locked just beyond that iron door. Historically, the Carta Ignota's existence is a shadow in medieval records. A 14th century chronicle mentions a chart of the damned, condemned by Pope Boniface VIII, but details are scarce. By the Renaissance, scholars like Erasmus referenced a forbidden Vatican map, though none claimed to have seen it. Modern historians rely on these scraps, piecing together a puzzle with half the pieces missing. The archives you're sneaking through hold the real thing, but even without it, the Carta Ignota fuels endless theories. Was it a warning, a rebellion, or something stranger? You imagine the monks, Elias, Margarita, Cato, smiling from beyond, knowing their work still stirs trouble. Let's dive into the arguments. You sit in the Oxford study, flipping through a scholar's notes. The first camp, the heresy theorists, sees the Carta Ignota as a middle finger to the Vatican. They point to its symbols, the broken cross, the daggered moon, as proof of dissent. Elias and his crew, they argue, were outcasts exposing the Church's lies about hell, maybe even suggesting it wasn't real. You nod, remembering the empty, throne in the Sanctum Ignotum, a hell without a devil? That's a bold jab at dogma, but you're not sold. The map's web of sins felt too earnest, too personal, to be just a prank. The second camp, the mystics, takes a softer view. They think the Carta Ignota is a spiritual tool, like a medieval meditation app. The web, the monsters, the noche. Te ipsum, know thyself. In the margins, they're all about self-reflection, guiding souls through sin to redemption. You recall the Ouroboros, that looping snake, and its alchemical hint of transformation. Maybe the monks wanted you to face hell to escape it, not just fear it. A quirky tidbit. Some 13th century mystics used vision maps to meditate, imagining journeys through sacred spaces. The Carta Ignota could be a dark twist on that, a pilgrimage through damnation. You like this idea, but it's too tidy. Those monsters weren't exactly whispering, "Find your inner peace." Then there's the fringe, the conspiracy nuts. Not their official name, but close. They claim the map's a literal guide, drawn from visions or, demonic whispers. They point to Monasterium Tenebris and its cursed relic, saying the monks tapped into something real, maybe too real. You picture Cato muttering to shadows, his claws filling the map's margins. A 15th century diary, found in a Florentine attic, claims a monk saw doors in the air while studying the Carta Ignota. Spooky, but probably just bad mead. Still, you can't shake the map's vividness, like it knows more than it should. Historians still argue whether the Carta Ignota was
meant to destroy faith or deepen it, rebellion or revelation.
You're torn. The heresy theorists nail the monks' anger, but the mystics capture the map's strange hope. The conspiracy nuts are out there, but they remind you of the map's eerie pull. You stand back in the Vatican archives, the iron door unmoved. The scholars' debates don't solve the puzzle, but they light it up, showing how the Carta Ignota defies easy answers. It's not just a map, it's a mirror reflecting whoever dares to look. You pace, the debate swirling. If the heresy theorists are right, the map's in that vault because it's a weapon too dangerous to wield. If the mystics are correct, it's a treasure hidden to protect its power. And if the conspiracy nuts have a point, well, you might want to rethink this whole sneaking thing. You laugh quietly. Great, I'm stuck in a thesis defense with
no exit. But the Carta Ignota's intent feels closer now, like it's whispering through the door.
You're not just chasing a map, you're chasing why it matters, why it still drives people to argue centuries later. Quick pause. You're killing it, wading through scholarly smackdowns like a pro. Most people would have zoned out at the first. Latin quote. Here's a joke. Why'd the scholar love the map? It gave him tenure and nightmares. Back to it. You're in the Vatican's archives, the Carta Ignota's meaning buzzing in your head. Next, you'll follow the monk who hid it. For good. Hope you're ready for a final chase because it's about to get intense. You're still in the Vatican's shadowy archives, the iron door with its skull-shaped keyhole looming like a gatekeeper to the Carta Ignota. The scholars' debates, heresy, mysticism, conspiracy, swirl in your mind, each theory a thread in the map's tangled legacy. You slump against a dusty shelf, the soft hum of your imaginary fan grounding you, and let your thoughts drift to the final monk who hid the Carta Ignota, ensuring it vanished from the world. This is no ordinary brother. He's the last keeper, the one who sealed the map's fate in these vaults. You're about to follow his footsteps, chasing a ghost through a story of stealth and sacrifice. Picture a stormy night in 13th century Rome, rain lashing the Vatican's walls. You're trailing a hooded figure, let's call him Brother Gideon, through
muddy streets, his robes soaked, but his pace relentless. He clutches a bundle under his arm, wrapped in oilcloth, the Carta Ignota, its inked hell heavier than ever.
Gideon's no heretic like Elias or visionary like Margarita. He's a survivor, chosen to hide the map after the church's decrees turned it into a hunted relic. You duck behind a cart as he glances back, his eyes sharp with paranoia. You smirk, muttering, "Guy's got main character in a thriller vibes." But this is no game. Gideon's risking everything to keep the map safe. Historically, the Vatican's crackdown on forbidden texts was ruthless. In 1258, Pope Alexander expanded the Inquisition's reach, targeting not just heretics but their works. The Carta Ignota, already infamous after Innocent Fool's edicts, was a prime target. Gideon likely belonged to a secret order, monks tasked with preserving dangerous knowledge, not destroying it. A 14th century letter found in a Sienese monastery hints at keepers of the forbidden who hid texts in places no light touches. That's Gideon's world, and you're sneaking through it, watching him slip into a side door of the old Lateran palace, the map's final stop before the vaults. You follow. The palace's corridors dim, lit by sputtering torches. Gideon moves, like he knows the place. Maybe he was a scribe here once, before the map changed everything. He descends a staircase, the air growing colder, damper, until you're in a prototype of the archives you're sneaking through now. Stone shelves hold scrolls and codices, but Gideon heads for a hidden alcove, its entrance masked by a false wall. You're impressed. Medieval stealth tech is no joke. He kneels, prying up a floorstone to reveal a lead-lined box, the one rumoured to contain the map's curse. A quirky tidbit. Some medieval monks believed lead could trap evil spirits like a spiritual Tupperware. You hope it worked because Gideon's about to entrust the Carta Ignota to it. Let's slow down. You crouch beside him, watching as he unwraps the map. Its parchment is worn but vivid, the watcher's mark glinting in the torchlight. Gideon's hands tremble, not from fear, but reverence. You wonder what he knows. Did he read the map's web of sins, its nosce te ipsum call to self-knowledge? Does he believe it's heretical, mystical, or something else? You imagine his story, Maybe he was a friend of Elias, tasked with saving their work after Monasterium. Tenebris fell, or maybe he's a penitent, hiding the map to atone for his own doubts. Historians still argue whether the Carta Ignota's keepers were rebels or loyalists. Did they hide it to defy the church, or to protect its secrets? You're leaning toward defiance, but Gideon's quiet resolve makes you question. He places the map in the box, whispering a prayer, or maybe a plea. The lid closes with a thud, and he seals it with wax, carving a symbol. The Ouroboros, that looping snake. You shiver, remembering its hint of cycles and transformation. Gideon's not just hiding the map, he's ensuring it waits for the right moment, the right person. Maybe you. You laugh softly. Great, now I'm the chosen one in a monk's
Fanfic. But it's not funny. Gideon's sacrifice, his life, his name, erased to protect the Carta Ignota, feels heavy, like the box itself. You follow as he replaces the stone and slips away, his mission done.
But the story doesn't end. You imagine him leaving Rome, vanishing into the night, maybe to a distant monastery or a hermit's cave. The Carta Ignota stays hidden, its keepers fading into legend. Back in the present, you're in the archives. The iron door, a descendant of Gideon's alcove. The map's still here, waiting just as he intended. You stand, the weight of his choice settling on you. He didn't just hide the Carta Ignota, he passed it to you across centuries, daring you to find it. Quick pause. You're crushing it, chasing ghost monks like a pro. Most people would have bailed at the first secret alcove. Here's a joke. Why'd Gideon hide the map? He didn't want hell's worst Yelp review. Back to it. You're in the Vatican's archives. Gideon's shadow guiding you. Next, you'll connect the map's legacy to today's fears. Hope you're ready for some modern chills, because it's about to get real. You're still in the Vatican's dimly lit archives, the iron door with its skull-shaped keyhole, standing like a sentinel between you and the Carta Ignota. Brother Gideon's shadow lingers, his sacrifice to hide the map echoing through the centuries. You lean against a cold shelf, the faint hum of your imaginary fan soothing your nerves, and let your mind drift from the medieval past to the present. The Carta Ignota isn't just a relic, its legacy ripples into today, stirring fears that feel eerily modern. You're about to connect its ancient warnings to the anxieties of 2025, tracing how a monk's map still haunts the world's imagination. Picture yourself stepping out of the archives, not into Rome's cobblestone streets, but into a bustling city of today, say New York at dusk, neon lights flickering like the flumen ignis from the map. You're holding a digital tablet, its screen displaying a scanned fragment of the Carta Ignota, leaked online by some rogue archivist. The web of sins, the Watcher's mark, the empty throne, they're trending on X, with hashtags like You Vatican Secrets and Hellmap. You smirk, thinking medieval monks would have had a meltdown over viral content. But the buzz isn't just curiosity, it's fear, the same kind that drove Innocent Fall to ban the map. The Carta Ignota still spooks people, and you're here to figure out why. Historically, the idea of hell has always shaped culture. In the 14th century, Dante's Inferno, inspired by maps like the Carta Ignota, turned the underworld into a literary blockbuster, warning readers to stay pious. Today, hell's less about fire and brimstone and more about existential dread, climate collapse, AI gone rogue, societal decay. The Carta Ignota taps into that, its web of sins, mirroring modern vices. Greed in corporate overreach, wrath in online hate, sloth in apathy toward global crises. You scroll through X posts, seeing users compare the map's Fossa Avaritiae to Wall Street or its spectre silence to digital addiction. The map's not just old, it's timeless, a mirror for today's fears. Let's zoom in. You're in a coffee shop, the tablet glowing as you read a viral thread. A user claims the Carta Ignota predicts 2025's chaos, economic crashes, tech monopolies, even whispers of AI demons running amok. You roll your eyes. Sounds like the conspiracy nuts
From the scholars' debate. But there's a kernel of truth.
The map's web, linking sin to sin, feels like a diagram of modern systems, how one bad choice, say ignoring emissions, spirals into another, flooded cities. A quirky tidbit, in 2023 a fringe blog claimed the Vatican leaked Carta Ignota, fragments to warn humanity about tech overlords. Total fiction, but it got 1 million clicks, proof the map still stirs paranoia. You sip your coffee wondering if Elias would have been proud or horrified. Why does the Carta Ignota resonate now? You walk the city streets, the tablet tucked away, and think. Its monsters, Custavorax serpens umbra, aren't so different from today's bogeymen. Faceless corporations, algorithms that know too much. Its empty throne, the Sanctum Ignotum, echoes fears of a world without meaning, where no one's in charge, not even a devil. You recall a 2024 study cited on X, showing rising anxiety over unseen systems controlling life, finance, tech, politics. The Carta Ignota nails that vibe, its web a warning that we're trapped in cycles of our own making. Historians still argue whether the map was meant to scare or save. Does it damn us or push us to break free? You lean toward the latter, but 2025's fears make damnation feel closer. You pause in a park, city noise fading. The Carta Ignota's legacy isn't just in its imagery, it's in its call to nosce te ipsum, know thyself. That's what scares people most, not hell, but facing their role in it. You see it on X, posts about guilt over waste, rage over injustice, or sloth in scrolling past bad news. The map's not trending because it's spooky, it's trending because it's us. You laugh softly. Great, the 12th century monks roasting our entire era. But it's not funny. The Carta Ignota holds a mirror to 2025, and the reflection isn't pretty. Back in the Vatican archives, you're by the iron door, the map's modern echo fading. Its legacy lives in our fears, but the real thing's still here, locked away. Gideon hid it to protect it, or us. You're close to finding it, to seeing if its truths match the hype. For now, you rest, the door unopened, the Carta Ignota waiting. Its legacy proves it's more than parchment. It's a warning that's outlived its makers, and you're about to carry it forward. Quick pause. You're killing it, linking medieval maps to modern doom scrolling like a pro. Most people would have logged off at the first X thread. Here's a joke. Why's the map trending? It's got better drama than reality TV. Back to it. You're in the archives, the Carta Ignota's legacy. Buzzing in your head.
Next, you'll reflect as sleep claims you. Hope you're ready for a gentle fade, because it's about to get dreamy.
You're still in the Vatican's shadowy archives, the iron door with its skull-shaped keyhole standing resolute, a final barrier to the Carta Ignota. The map's modern echoes, its sins mirrored in today's fears, linger in your thoughts, tying 12th century monks to 2025's anxieties. You sink to the cold floor, the soft hum of your imaginary fan lulling you, and feel a gentle pull, like the map itself is ready to let you rest. You've chased its paths, faced its monsters, and unraveled its truths, but now it's time to reflect, to let the Carta Ignota's weight settle as sleep creeps in. The journey's fading, and you're ready to drift. Picture yourself not in the archives, but in a quiet meadow, the kind you'd find in a dream. The air is cool, scented with lavender and earth, a far cry from hell's sulphur. Above, stars pulse softly, like the Carta Ignota's glowing ink. You're lying on a blanket, the map spread beside you, its parchment no longer heavy but light, almost translucent. Its rivers of fire have softened to streams, its monsters to shadows that
don't bite.
You trace the web of sins, greed, wrath, sloth, and smile, not because they're gone, but because they're just lines now, not chains. You murmur, "Guess I survived hell's road trip after all." The map doesn't answer, but it feels like it's listening. Historically, medieval maps like the Carta Ignota were more than art. They were bridges between worlds, mortal and divine. The Hereford Mappa Mundi, crafted around 1300, showed Earth as a stage for God's plan, guiding pilgrims toward salvation. The Carta Ignota flipped that, guiding you through damnation, but its purpose, nocite ipsum, know thyself, was just as holy. You think of Brother Gideon hiding the map in that lead-lined box, his whispered prayer, a hope that someone, maybe you, would find it. A quirky tidbit. Medieval monks sometimes buried texts with blessings, believing they'd sleep
until needed.
You imagine the Carta Ignota sleeping in its vault, waiting for this moment, for you to see its truth. Your eyes grow heavy, the meadow's stars blurring. The map's web fades, but its lesson lingers. Every sin is a choice, every choice a path. You recall Elias's defiance, Margarita's steady hand, Cato's fevered claws, outcasts who poured their souls into this parchment. They weren't just mapping hell, they were mapping you, your flaws, your potential to rise. You chuckle, a sleepy sound, pretty deep for a bunch of Incan paranoia. But it's true, the Carta Ignota's monsters, its empty throne, its
Ouroboros loop, they're mirrors, not traps, urging you to break your own cycles. Why did the Vatican hide it? You roll onto your side, the blanket soft beneath you. Fear, maybe, of the map's honesty, its power to make you question.
Historians still argue whether it was heresy or hope. Did it damn souls or set them free? You're sure now it's hope, wrapped in terror. The church locked it away because it trusted you too much, gave you too much power to know yourself. You see the iron door in your mind, but it's open now, the Carta Ignota in your hands, not to fear, but to hold. Its weight is gone, its secret's yours. The meadow fades, the stars dimming to a gentle glow. You're no longer in the archives, or hell, or even 2025. You're just here, floating in a calm that feels earned. The Carta Ignota's paths dissolve, but its whisper remains. You're enough, flaws and all. You smile, sleep tugging harder now, and let the map go. It drifts upward, a soft light against the dark, joining the stars. Gideon's prayer, Elias's rebellion, Margarita's courage, they're with you, not as ghosts, but as warmth, lulling you deeper. You're safe, you're whole, and the map's work is done. Your breathing slows, the fans hum, blending with a distant breeze. The Carta Ignota was never about hell. It was about you, about finding your way through the dark. As sleep claims you, the last image is a star, bright and steady, like the watcher's mark, but kind. You're not afraid. The map's legacy, its fears and truths, rests easy now, a story told. Drift, dreamer, and let the night carry you. You're sinking deeper now, the meadow gone, the stars a distant memory. Your breath is slow even, like waves lapping a quiet shore. The Carta Ignota's weight has lifted, its paths and monsters fading into a soft haze, no sharper than a dream half forgotten. You're safe here, wrapped in the gentle dark, where no vaults or keyholes can follow. The monk's whispers, Elias's fire, Margarita's calm, Gideon's resolve, blend into a lullaby, their voices not warnings but comfort, guiding you to rest. The Vatican's secrets, the map's ancient fears, they're just stories now, told and done, leaving only peace in their wake. Your body feels heavy, grounded, as if the earth itself is cradling you, its rhythm matching your slowing pulse. No need to chase or question anymore. You've walked the paths, faced the truths, and come through whole. Let the night take over, its cool embrace softer than any blanket. The stars, if they're still there, are watching, but they're kind. Their light a whisper of the map's glow now, yours to keep. Sleep, dear dreamer, and let the world wait. You've earned this quiet, this drift, this gentle end.